Hey everybody, it is Marissa, and I have something a little bit different for you today. We are obviously going to be cooking. I was in a chat yesterday and was talking about making my 7-can soup. Some people call it taco soup, different things like that. And I was encouraged to share the recipe and possibly do a video on how to make it. This is one of my go-to meals. I can make it on Friday night and eat on it all weekend long, which is one of the things I absolutely love about it. It is fantastic in the wintertime. It's a super easy soup to make. And this recipe originally came to me through a friend of mine, actually the one that introduced me to diamond painting. Hey, Natalie. And so I thought I would share this with you guys on how I make it. Now, this is one of those recipes that you can make it 15 different ways and all of it is always good. I've never had this soup done in a bad way. You can substitute things very easily if you are on a special diet or a restricted diet, or if you're allergic to something. You can add things, take away things. It is completely up to you. This recipe is so versatile that you can do pretty much anything and still make it work. So when I first started making this, I started making it with ground beef. And a couple years ago, I switched from ground beef to ground turkey. And then I've also used chicken in it. I have used, I'm going to be using breakfast sausage as well today. So again, even I have played around with this recipe, and you can kind of take what I'm doing. You can make it work for you, add food you like, add food or take away food you don't like, etc. So what I do is I start with my stock pot. You will need a large stock pot or a large soup pan like this one. I have my roll of ground turkey, so I'm just going to cut off the end of it. To make this a one pan dish, I just brown my meat directly in the bottom of my pan. I don't put it in a skillet and do it separately. One thing I do like about using the ground turkey is that it doesn't seem to have the same problems with leaving a bunch of grease behind that you get when you use ground beef. So I prefer to use the turkey. Give me just a second, guys. I'm looking for my tenderizer here. So I'll just put it in here. I'll break it up. Again, you don't have to use turkey. You can use ground chuck if you would like to, or ground beef. A lot of us in Texas call it chuck. But you can use no meat at all. Honestly, you can make this very easily, make this a vegetarian meal. But I am a carnivore and I like my meat, so I just get it in there. I break it up to a reasonable amount, and then I had shared this recipe a couple years ago with a friend of mine, and he alternated it. He uses ground beef, but then he also uses breakfast sausage. So that was a pound of ground beef, or a pound of ground turkey, and then a pound of original Walmart brand breakfast sausage. And this sausage really kicks it up a notch, makes it really flavorful. And y'all, I am not a chef by any means, so I am far from the pioneer woman over here, but we're gonna make it work. So I have started using the breakfast sausage. It really does kick it up a notch. It gives it a ton of flavor, and it doesn't interfere. It enhances the other flavors that you have. So I'm just gonna break it all up just like that. If you don't have one of these, my mom bought me this. I thought she was crazy. This thing is fantastic. I think it's technically a meat tenderizer, but it breaks it up really well. So we're going to go into my very sparse spice thing here. I do add some garlic powder. Again, this is all completely up to you on how you want to do it. You don't have to do any of this. You can do all of it. If you hate garlic, don't add garlic. Apparently I'm out of garlic. So I'm going to add garlic. I am going to add some of this Montreal chicken grill mates. Just a little bit. What is happening? It is super humid today, guys. That's the only thing I can think. Okay, well. And I'm going to add some chopped onion. So I would suggest buying regular onion and just putting some of it in here if you're an onion person. If you don't like onion, you can skip this step, obviously. For me, this works better than a chopped onion. So just a few of those things there. And then I turn it on to about a medium high, and we're just going to let that brown up. And while that is browning, I will go over some of the other ingredients that you need. So again, that was a pound of ground turkey and a pound of breakfast sausage. The other things that you're going to need, and I call this 7-can soup for a reason. You're going to need a can of chicken broth. Sorry about the lighting in here, guys. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. So a can of chicken broth, a can of black beans, a can of diced tomatoes with in jalapeno juice. You can use stewed tomatoes, and you can actually use 2 cans of Rotel instead of 1 can of Rotel. I got a can of Rotel. Does that help any? Yeah, I got a can of Rotel and a can of stewed tomatoes. So guys, I'm allergic to fresh tomatoes. I can only eat it once they've been cooked. So this is the way I get my nutrients from tomatoes. This is one of the big recipes that I use. So I use a lot of canned goods. If you want to really go for it, you can make this by dicing tomatoes and putting it in here. But you can also use, instead of a stewed tomato, you can use 2 cans of Rotel. This is the Great Value brand from Walmart. But it is basically tomatoes with green chilies. A can of chopped green chilies. A can of ranch style beans. And a can of corn. So those are the 7 cans that you need. Again, you can make this 6 cans, you can make it 9 cans, you can add some things in. The original recipe also called for a can of pinto beans. That was too many beans for me personally, so I went with black beans and ranch style beans. So you can do those 2 things. Again, you can switch out the diced tomatoes. I've even used the tomatoes. I accidentally picked them up one time, the diced tomatoes with the basil and oregano, and that was actually very good as well. So you can do that, or you can do 2 cans of Rotel. If you like the extra kick, you can do the green chilies. If you don't like it spicy, you can take away the green chilies. Again, this is completely up to you. I've made this with 2 cans of corn, and I've made it with 3 cans of tomatoes. It just depends on your personal taste. Another optional thing that you can use is some taco seasoning. I will just put a little bit. I will not use the whole packet in it. I just put a little bit in there. This is another one of those recipes too that it tastes better the next day, or the longer that you let it kind of meld together. This is a great 2nd and 3rd day soup. It heats up really well. You can freeze it really well. And overall, generally, for as long as it takes the meat to brown, and then however long you want to let it simmer is how long it'll take you to make it. So it's completely up to you. So I'm going to pause here, and through the magic of editing, we will come back when my meat is brown and I start adding my cans. Alright guys, we are back. Our meat is pretty much brown. Now I did have to turn on the television, so you may hear that in the background. We're under severe thunderstorm warning with some 70, 80 mile an hour winds, which is always a good time. So we're going to start adding cans. I got my trusty can opener over here. I always add the rotel and the green chilies first and let it sit in there for about 5 minutes before I add everything else. So you literally just start dumping in cans. I think some people probably would call this a dump soup, since that's basically what you're doing. Here's my green chilies. Okay. So I just added the tomatoes, the diced tomatoes, the rotel, and the can of green chilies, and I'm just going to mix that in really well. I did not drain anything. Everything goes in as is. This is a great weeknight meal. And this will feed, I get 5 or so meals, 5 to 6 meals out of this. So you should be able to feed, you know, a family with 2 or 3 kids on this main recipe. This is another one of those. It's really easy to double. If you need to feed 10 people, you can buy 2 cans. Basically, you don't even have to double the meat necessarily. You just buy 2 cans of all the veggies and add that in. And when I serve this, I'm going to serve this over tortilla chips. I'm going to put some shredded cheese on it, and then I prefer some sour cream on mine. I looked at the avocados as well today. They did not look good yet. They're not quite in season, so I did not buy any avocados. But I do like mine with sour cream and cheese over tortilla chips. So, you know, there are ways to make this go further. I was definitely raised in a house. My grandmother was born in 1928. So her formative years were during the Great Depression. So we learned how to make things go further to feed more people as we needed to. So this is one of those, when I have to feed a lot of people, this is one of my go-to meals, even in the summer, because it is so easy to double a recipe. And really, you're going to pay, what, an extra $5 or $6 for cans in the long run to double the recipe. I am going to turn my heat down because I don't need this to really cook anymore. At this point, all we're going to do is just let it kind of zhuzh together. Really, you're letting it, you know, kind of soak in the flavors. And there it is. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of taco seasoning. I might add maybe a couple of teaspoons to a tablespoon, maybe. I mean, that's literally it. I still have that much left in the package. So I'll just fold this over and seal it up. And it goes in my container that I have for seasonings like that. Give it another good stir to mix that in. I feel like this is a recipe that even beginners can make, because really all you have to be able to do is brown meat without burning yourself. And even then, I've probably burned myself before. So we're going to let that sit for about 2 minutes, and then we will start adding all of our other cans. So I'm just going to go ahead and start opening these. I did turn my heat down to medium-low. And I'm sure someone is cringing because I'm just setting the cans over there. But at the moment, I cannot actually get to my trash can. So, give that a good mix. Then we're going to dump cans. I'm not draining these again. You can if you would like to. If you would like to make this more of a stew type of a soup, you can drain your cans and make it, it'll become more of a stew. It'll be more chunky. Okay, so what I do with my chicken broth, and again, if you want it more stew-like, don't do this step. You can skip this step. I just add it in for flavor. I like mine to be a little more soupy. You can add as much or as little of the chicken broth as you want. It does give it a good base flavor. And then you just give it a stir, get everything mixed together. You can re-season again at this stage if you like a lot of seasonings. Okay, so that is literally how you make the taco soup. 7-can soup, dump soup, whatever you want to call it. This is my version of it. It is that easy. That took us exactly 30 minutes from when I started to now. I'm going to let this simmer on low heat for probably about 30 minutes is usually about my time. And I just come and mix it every now and then, give it a couple of good stirs. And then once it's ready, really it's ready at this point. You could serve it now. I like to let it kind of mellow with all the seasonings and things together. I'll come back and I will fix myself a bowl and have some lunch. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave me some comments below. If you have a recipe you would like to share, please do so in the comments. Don't forget that I did open a Facebook group called Crochet with May. It is not just for crochet. I do add my diamond paintings on there. It is another place for us all to meet up if you would like to. So please go on. There's 2 quick questions to answer. And join us there. You can share your recipes there, all of your works in progress, whether that's crochet or diamond painting or even another craft. I love all crafts and seeing people do things that I don't necessarily know how to do, but I think looks super cool. So if you would like to join us there, please do so. Either way, until I see you next time, remember that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to try things. Bye, guys.